Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Magic the Gathering Arena. Today we are headed back into Explorer, and we are going to be playing a deck I played, the deck I played last time, but it's been tuned up a little bit. So we're going to take a look at this real quick, and I will walk you through it. Basically, this is a mono-white control, sort of. We are mono-white Karn. Let's call it that. Because Karn is kind of the way we win the game. We can win by just beating our opponent down with tokens and stuff, but Karn is really the way to, the best way we have to put away the game. So, what is this deck? This deck is a mono-white deck focused on getting lots of mana really quickly and abusing a couple of key cards. We are abusing Brought Back and Strict Proctor. Really, it's a Brought Back. We've got Brought Back. Brought Back can give us some truly spectacular turns. Strict Proctor allows us to accelerate very, very quickly, and it also does a lot to hose some of the decks that are out there in the meta right now. Karuga Fires kind of struggles with this card early. It's genuinely just a pain in the butt for some other decks. Key pieces. A lot of stuff that's ETBs. Is very, very powerful. So when this comes down and just shuts that down, that's nice. Stuff you wouldn't think, like Thalio's Lieutenant out of mono-white humans. Right? This thing makes it, all of a sudden, it's a 4 mana thing instead of a 2 mana thing. I mean, they can still play it, but they don't get all the counters and stuff. Brought Back, though, is really, like I said, the powerhouse in this deck. So, Brought Back, choose up to 2 target permanent cards in your graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn. Return them to the battlefield tapped. Well, we have a lot of permanents here that do stuff. We have these Birth of Meletis. We have, and these things actually sacrifice themselves too a lot of times. So Birth of Meletis, Elspeth Conquers Death is very nice. And then just generally, like, if our opponent removes some stuff. We also have these Planeswalkers. So, interesting thing, this is just any permanent. So, like, if you downtick your Planeswalker, so if we like Wandering Emperor on our opponent's turn, -2 it, exile one of their things, we can then, on our turn, -1 it, sack something else, like a Birth of Meletis that just finished, cast Brought Back, get back a full Wandering Emperor, like a full 4 mana Wandering Emperor, and whatever else we sacrificed, which is kind of sick. Same with Karn. Like, Planeswalkers really don't care if they're tapped. But one of the really key things in this deck is Lotus Field. So what we're trying to do very early on, as early as turn 3, is play Lotus Field with 2 mana available, and either precede it with a Strict Proctor, and don't pay for the trigger, or float 2 white mana, play the Lotus Field, Brought Back the 2 lands. Puts us on 5 mana on turn 4. Well, technically 6 if we have the land drop. So that lets us jump straight to Elspeth Conquers Deaths, to Karn plus activation, to Wandering Emperor with removal up, to crank down on these Reckoner Bankbusters and gain life with, or not gain life with them, gain card advantage with them, so on and so forth. One of the other, we also have Restoration of Ejano. Sorry, cannot say that word right now. I can say it sometimes, but not right now. So this card has a very interesting sort of synergy with Strict Proctor and Birth of Meletis, as well as Reckoner Bankbuster to a certain extent, but a little bit less so there. essentially, this card lets us slip strict proctors in under counter magic, right? We could play a restoration on turn 3. Restoration doesn't usually eat a counterspell. It doesn't usually look impactful enough to. So you slip in you drop a Restoration of Ejano in and get a Plains. The next turn, you discard like a Strict Proctor or a Birth of Meletis, and you put that into play. You can put Reckoner Bankbuster in under counter spells. But the really cool thing that this does is with Birth of Meletis, you play Birth of Meletis on turn 2. Turn 3, you play Restoration of Ejano. Turn 4, Birth of Meletis is finishing, and the Restoration is on to Chapter 2. If you stack your triggers correctly, the Birth of Meletis can go to your graveyard, and then you can discard a card to the Restoration to get back that Birth of Meletis that just finished. Which is just, it's really nice, because it gets you that card advantage in terms of pulling all the planes out, getting you another wall. The walls are very nice to actually block a bunch of stuff that's going on right now. Yeah, and then we have Karn. Karn is like I said, the major win con of this deck, and my sideboard is a disaster for some reason. Don't worry about that. I'll just read these cards off to you, or see if we can maybe tweak this to get it to look right. No, that's not working. Wonderful. Okay, well, you'll just have to look at the images right there in front of you instead of the list, because the list looks like garbage. Not my fault, Arena's fault. Visual bugs, so probably not going to get fixed ever. It's intermittent as well, so it's hard to say what causes it. So, our entire sideboard is for Karn. We do not sideboard. It's pointless, right? Sideboarding would probably hurt our deck more than help it, right? Having to cut out some of these from the Karn board. So we have Tormod Script for graveyards. When we need to just get rid of a graveyard immediately. We have Luxior, in case we want to close out the game by hitting people with Planeswalkers. We can do that. This can give us, like, a blocker that we absolutely have to have immediately with just 2 mana. But really the advantage is it plays very nicely with Wandering Emperor, letting Wandering Emperor put like +1/+1 counters on stuff, which actually turns into +2/+2 with this on there, and then yeah. This is probably, like, there's probably a better option here, but this was just fun, so that's what I'm running. We have Shadow Spear. This card is ridiculous against aggro and stuff. You can just get a Shadow Spear, strap it on whatever, and gain life. It's also great against hexproof stuff, but there's not a lot of hexproof running around anymore. It's all ward, so that's less relevant, but it's still nice to have. We have Unlicensed Curse in case we need a little bit more granular graveyard removal. Our opponent is reanimating specific permanents, or they've got like a well, it doesn't really work against Scavenging Ooze, but you know, when we don't need to like pop the graveyard once, it's got more of a recurring threat going on. We have the Celestis here. Celestis, I really like to let us grind. It gains us life. It filters our cards. Again, like, this is a card that's a little bit of a flex spot. You could put something else in here if you wanted to. We have Sky Sovereign. It's a boat. This is one of the ways you can win the game with this. Just slap down a Sky Sovereign, bolt away one of your opponent's things, and then, you know, next turn, like, crew it up, bolt away some more stuff. Smash them in the air. What have you. We have Darksteel Citadel in case we need a land. We have Ratchet Bomb for tokens. Like if they have if the opponent has a bunch of tokens that we need to get rid of immediately, Ratchet Bomb is what we'll go for. Sorceress Spyglass. This is actually what I tend to tutor for a lot. This can shut down all sorts of problematic permanents. Also gives you insight into what's in your opponent's hand and that sort of stuff. We have Stone Brain. Stone Brain, another win condition. If your opponent has a few key permanents and their deck pretty much can't win, or very close to can't win without those permanents or without those cards, Stone Brain can help you like just kill those cards, get those cards out of their deck. Really nice for answering opposing Karns because, yeah, that's a card that's really hard to beat when your main game plan is Karn. So yeah, that's that. We have Book of Exalted Deeds. So we actually have a combo here, the Book of Exalted Deeds combo, with Mutavault. So Book of Exalted Deeds, it does something, and then it has an activated ability, and the activated ability is what we care about. Basically, for a grand total of 6 white mana, exiling Book of Exalted Deeds and having an angel on the battlefield, aka Mutavault, we can get a Platinum Angel out of this. Okay, so Mutavault, we turn Mutavault into a Platinum Angel. Our opponent can't win as long as they can't destroy a land. So at that point, it becomes a case of getting all the ways they could destroy a land out of their deck, and sit back, relax, and enjoy the show while your opponent decks themselves. So there are a lot of decks which just don't have a way to answer a land. They could very much benefit from throwing in a Demolition Field or a Field of Ruin, I think, but a lot of decks just don't have the space for it. So it's something that slips under the radar, and this can just cheese you out some wins. We then have Karn Silex here. This is if we have time before we have to wipe and we need a bigger wipe, something that just like clears away a greater number of permanents. It's the earliest that this can pop though is turn 5, or turn 6. Sorry, yeah, turn 6. If we don't ramp at all, or we could ramp off of like Restoration or something like that. But if we ramp off yeah, the earliest this can pop is turn 6. Because you're playing Karn on turn 4, this on turn 5, then on turn 6 you could pop it, right? So it's a little bit slow, but it does do a big wipe if you need it. And then we have another wipe here. We have Cataclysmic Gearhulk. Cataclysmic Gearhulk, sort of like a bad Tragic Arrogance that you get a 4/5 out of. But you can also, we can get it out of our sideboard with Karn. So if it's a good time for a Cataclysmic Gearhulk, our opponent's way ahead on creatures or other permanents, we can get the Gearhulk, slam that down, and pop off with it. Then we have 2 ways to win the game here. We have Cityscape Leveler, big old beater, blows stuff up. Just a great card. And Portal to Phyrexia. This one is a little more dubious because we do tend to exile our opponent's graveyards a lot and exile our graveyard. Our graveyard tends to get exiled, I should say. Because people see Brought Back and like Invoke Justice and they go, that's a graveyard deck, I'm going to bring in all my graveyard hate. And it does cause problems, but we also have a lot of ways to just clean up graveyard hate, right? And we are okay with exiling our graveyard sometimes. So, but anyway, that's the Karn board. I realize this has been a bit of a long intro, but I really wanted to give an in-depth on this deck in particular because it's kind of different. One last point to mention. That a lot of my opponents seem to have been confused about, because they're oftentimes, you can see what your opponent hovers, and they will a lot of times hover our Sagas, or cast other enchantments into a strict proctor, thinking that for some reason it doesn't trigger on that. Sagas don't have enters the battlefield abilities. It functions much in the same way. They function much in the same way as an enter the battlefield ability, but you'll notice in that top line of text there, it says, as this saga enters the battlefield, or enters, and after you draw your draw step, add a lore counter to it, sacrifice after 3. The wording there being as means that it is not a triggered enters the battlefield ability. It is rather an ability that the permanent is entering with a counter, and then because it is entering with that counter, because that counter is being put on it, its first ability triggers. So Strict Proctor does not interact negatively with all of our sagas, because they're not enter the battlefield abilities, which is really weird, but that's the way it works. It's probably because the reason that it works this way is probably because Wizards did not want people to run into a situation where their card is entering the battlefield, it's triggering, getting removed, and you don't get anything for it because the trigger was not the trigger of the... was not Chapter 1, it was put a lore counter on this, right? That's the idea. And I mean, I could get more into the rules, but let's get into some games. Let's have some fun. Alrighty, here we go. First opponent. This is actually an ideal hand. We don't have a top end, but it's pretty much ideal. If they Thoughtseize us, though, it's less than ideal. Okay, Plains, Swamp, and there's the Thoughtseize. Okay, well, gonna be a bit slower than expected. We're just gonna go Birth of Meletis into Birth of Meletis and let it ride from there. See what happens. Or not. Or our opponent is going to play like they have a second Thoughtseize, which would be really bad for us. They do not have a second Thoughtseize, so they probably don't know how this works. Yeah, so that's another one that's kind of confusing. Since Lotus Field is a land and not a... Oh, we mistapped there. The game didn't know what we were doing though, so that's okay. Yeah, see, that's what I said. Our opponent hovers the Birth of Meletis after the Strict Proctor enters. They're going to double pump here, kill this wall. That's fine, though. We get another wall next turn, so... And this is fun. I mean, we do exile our own Strict Proctor, but, like... They were expecting to have a Croxa there. Draw my card. Nothing died this turn, right? Yeah, our strict Proctor was exiled by this Misery Shadow. My turn. Play a Mutavault. Could brought back the Birth of Meletis, but it's probably not worth it. Oh, the problem is their shadow is such a pain in the butt. So, Strict Proctor here is actually a little bad for us. Because they have shown that they have a lot of Croxa. Invoke back Birth of Meletis. Put 5 counters on this wall. I actually think we fire up Mutavault. And we will invoke Justice back this Birth of Meletis. Basically make it expensive for the Misery Shadow to get through this wall, and the Graveyard Trespasser just can't. This screams removal spell. Like, it screams removal spell. So what we're going to do, I'm going to fire up Mutavault into the removal spell. Sure. Yep. That's fine. If you want to push now, that's okay. No? I get a wall. Actually, it couldn't be push, because push would have killed the vault at any point. I'm not a huge fan of this, but I think, again, we're going to fire this up. Let's do it the other way. So we have 2 threats. So we have two 5/5 Mutavaults here. Basically, I am trying to play around removal as much as possible. I think what they have right now is... What the heck's that card called? Stupid, It's a card, it does 2 damage to you and kills anything. I cannot for the life of me... This is so stupid. I should be able to remember this name. Oh my... No, it's not even that. It's worse. It's Power Word Kill. So Power Word Kill can't kill Mutavaults. So that's very nice to know that that's what they have. Yeah, Infernal Grasp. Infernal Grasp is the card I'm thinking of. Infernal Grasp would just be a million times better for them here than Power Word Kill. Even...
I've learned much during my travels. Let me show you. Let your blade do the talking.
And that's lethal. We're very close to... Oh, no. Nope, they've got something.
Show them how we greet our enemies.
So unfortunately here... I'm sorry, sir? First strike? First strike is a thing. Okay. I think our opponent has been thoroughly befuddled by these Mutavaults. They should have just jumped with that Misery Shadow. Block with a wall? I mean, they can pump it all they want. It doesn't matter to me. Like, this wall is irrelevant.
Back off.
And they're dead. That is a correct tap. That is a correct tap. Counter on this thing. Play this.
We've got the edge in this fight.
3 attacks. And no matter how they block, they die. All right. So, Power Word Kill hits a lot of stuff. It also doesn't hit some stuff. And Mutavault happens to be one of the things it doesn't hit. So that's very good for us because it means it's one of their removal spells can't disrupt one of our primary combos. They may have just boarded it out, but it still hits everything else. So that is what it is. Again, like, we can't sideboard and we can't play this hand. We can play this hand. Now the question here is whether or not to keep the Lotus Field. And I think the answer is no. I think the Lotus Field goes to the bottom. We're kind of stuck playing a fair game. So we didn't see like Shieldred or anything from them, so they may be running a less optimal version of so I think we'll pitch the Elspeth Conqueror's Death. Oh, that's unfortunate. Yes, that will flip. The goal here is Ejano on the Glutton. Pitch this Snooker. Black that. Harvester's fine. Play this castle. I'm gonna go for Bankbuster here. Because they're not necessarily going to attack into this wall, so that Wandering Emperor doesn't necessarily get value here. Okay, they're just going to go for that. That's fine. So that does make sense, because they have seen a lot of graveyard stuff from us, so it makes some sense that they would want to eat our graveyard as much as possible. Extinction Event. Very interesting. Very, very interesting that they brought that in.
you're ready to lose.
Whoosh.
My judgment is fine.
So this is a little awkward because that we do need an additional white.
Remember your training.
Just pass here. This is a little tricky to navigate. And a murderous rider. Sure.
Our swords will cross again.
Brought back just being silly.
Now you've done it. Hat's coming off.
Look! A whole
Not
Wandering
to me.
Emperor.
Strike fast and strike hard.
Opponent again not really seeing first strike clearly. We'll do it like this. I don't think we're going to need the blast zone this game, so we're going to Lotus Field here so that we have the invoke up. Oh, and that's just an excellent draw off the top. It's maybe even like debatable whether or not we should do this here, but like it just feels so good. Okay. Yep. Now here we don't play the Lotus Field because it's pointless. So we make a 2/2.
Keep watch for intruders.
We can invoke back the planes, but I don't think that's worth it. I think we just sit back, pass the turn, let them like Well, we're definitely making it human. Okay, we will... Do we need one mana for anything? No, so we're going to run out Strict Proctor. Play this. Decline the trigger. Invoke Despair. Get rid of this Fable.
Remember your training.
Opponent has figured out that first strike means that that's not a trade. This is... Oh, no, because the Croxa entering the battlefield will not cause an ability to trigger unless they pay 2, which they can't, which means that... Oh, no, they can. Crap. I'm going to go for Emperor. No, hold on. Sure. So we're going to block here and here. Now they can't pay because they pushed, so.
Years of training for this?
So they can Croxa, but they can't make us discard because they pushed. Which they didn't actually need to do. And we get to go nuts with it. Black, white, white, pop this, get back, Bank Buster. That's a little bit of a conservative attack, but like the 3/5 in the air I want to keep up. They could just play a Croxa here. Oh no! Oh, that's unfortunate. But our strict Proctor gets him a little bit. Because that's your whole turn. And we go take this up by 2. Let's pay that treasure, that's fine. Pop, pop. Can we just kill them? Maybe? Fire up the vault. Fire up this other vault. Crew this up. Swing in. This should just kill them, right? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. +1/+1 in first strike. Like, if they'd blocked the Bankbuster, they live. They lose the Harvester, but they live. So yeah, that was against Rakdos mid-range people, so maybe a slightly less than optimal build. They didn't draw any Sholdreds. They were playing more Croxas than is typical. Like, I think one Croxa is like the max. They had 2 in the first game, which indicates that they likely had more than 2. 2 is a little high, honestly, but this hand does nothing. It's almost keepable, though. We're not against Karuga Fires or Junsack or Elementals, probably, because all of those decks tend to run a companion. It could be like mono red or mono white aggro. Which we have the Blast Zone for. I'm going to keep this. I'm going to see what happens. Maybe we get run over by an aggro deck. Maybe it's a slow deck and we can leverage the Bankbuster to take it over the top. Maybe it's Rakdos mid-range. No, it's Selesnya Angels. Okay. Or at least it's Selesnya. It could be the Selesnya ramp Eldrazi deck. I've been seeing that a little bit. I'm in. I'll take ramp. I don't think you should do that. What our opponent just did. Okay. This is some nonsense. I don't know what it is, but it's something.
I am the Emperor of Kamigawa. Guards, to me! Strike fast and strike hard.
You can have a card. I don't know what you're doing, but you can have a card instead of that. Sharn. Is this like some weird Garuda pod style deck? I don't even know. I really have no idea what's going on here. So we're just going to continue to do the thing.
We've got the edge in this fight.
They have Gralnock sleeves, so they're definitely doing something interesting. Take a look at that frog. It's a good frog. Sure.
Those who hold the forest, the entire forest is an army.
So the question here becomes, do we exile your Sharn? Or try and get in and kill this Ren in 7? I'm going to try and kill the Ren in 7.
Remember your training.
The heat has become unbearable.
Well, they're out of lands. Wait, they're not out of lands. Why would they? That's weird. They must have instant speed lands of some description. That's a sorcery. No? Okay. They're doing stuff. Well, we will take down on this thing now.
I am almost sad to see you go.
Play a Blast Zone. There's no reason to play this, So they've got to have something sick coming out here. What is it? The Coma? This has got to be like Coma. Somebody help me understand what's happening here. Because it doesn't make any sense at all to me.
Do not underestimate the forest because of its beauty. Power grows with tender
They're trying to Angel Fire Ignition a Ren and 7 token. Or land. Sure. Sure. It's definitely something they can do. I should have ticked up the Blast Zone there, but...
Show them how we greet our enemies.
I have other groups to tell.
Okay. Sacrifice non-land permanents. Okay, so we can still sacrifice our Blast Zone. We can get some lands. Sure. Sure. Just playing into my Blast Zone, I guess. Alright. They seem very keen on keeping that Druid class,
My
which...
judgment is fine.
means that I want as many blast zones as possible. Because I think they're trying to go all the way through it in one turn. Sure. That leaves him with 2. That's not enough for Angel Fire Ignition. Yeah, that's a 10-10. It remains what it is. Two. Get my last planes out of the deck. Don't know what opponent's doing. We are going to tick up on this. It's not really necessary to tick up on anything else. We die? Sort of? Because they just ignition this forest now. Yeah, buddy, I know. So double ignition on the forest is like 11, 12, 13. Sure. Nothing I can do about it. I haven't drawn my field of ruins or demolition fields. Yeah? Yeah. If you have a double strike spell, then I just lose, but I don't think you do. I'm gonna pop this. Let's see. Well, we are going to discard. Question is, what are we getting back? They really didn't like the blast zone. And unfortunately, what we get back comes back in tapped. I'm gonna get the Bank Buster. That would be all our blast zones gone forever. Yeah, let's do it. Make a token.
Keep watch for intruders.
It did get rid of their ignition. That, yeah, I mean, that resolves. What am I going to do? We're going to die to this ignition here, aren't we? Oh, yeah, we're dead. We're dead. There's basically no way they brick at this point. Did they brick? They bricked.
Guards, to me.
Huh. I mean, I think we just passed. They didn't have ignition last turn, so the likelihood they have ignition this turn is effectively 0. And we can actually march this Colossus. Mulch, sure. So we're going to block first. And then march it. Is this 7? Okay, we have Demo Field. That's very nice. They don't have a basic land. That's another Colossus, sure. Do they only have 2 ignitions? If they only have 2 ignitions, that's really nice for us. Key point here, we're going to be able to see their entire deck. It's level 2, sure. Go to my turn. Okay. We are going to play this Demolition Field. We are going to downtick this Wandering Emperor.
Try not to. We must protect the people.
The 1/1 is not going to do us much good here. We're going to do this. Actually, yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have any lands left in our library. We could hit the. We're gonna hit the lair because they're not gonna spend all their mana on. There should be strip mine mode for both of us, right?
Run away. You'll be safer. This is what you get for hurting my people.
Oh, I think we're just dead. Yeah, we're just dead. What the heck is this in exile? They foretell a Doomscar? Sure. Klex. Level it up. Swing for $1 billion. Block. Take 6. Go to 6. Go to my turn. That's really not what we're looking for, but I guess it'll work for now, maybe. Down tick this, make it 2/2, so we're not dead.
Our swords will cross again. Guards, to me.
Play Demolition Field. No, don't do that. Oh, these restorations are so bad now. Play out a restoration. And pass. Oh, restoration is just blank. These sagas are blank against the Vormclex. That's really funny. Well, they have no red mana now, so they can't.
We prefer not to fight, but our magic brings us ever closer to crushing our enemies.
Oh, this is game 1 and we have like no time remaining. 14 to their 21. Yeah, okay. So we kind of have to win this game now. Otherwise, game 2 is going to be a nightmare. Okay. Okay. Angel Fire Ignition kills us. There's no way they don't have it at this point. Like, you're kidding me, right? We just have to live. So block with the 1/1. Can Karn save us? Karn comes in with 2. We down tick for 2, get what? Like, we really don't have time for this, right? So we get Gear Hulk and die. Do we even want to show them Karn? What could possibly be left in their hand? We have 7 cards left in deck.
Our actions determine the There is always another fight. I will rid you of your corruption.
Oh, we are so close to book. Oh, no. We are 1 off of book. Crap. Because if we could book here, that would be so silly. Because there's no way Stonebrain makes them draw enough. Ratchet Bomb doesn't do it. Leveler, we can't play. I had that new card from... from Brothers War in here, the Silex, Urza's Silex. And this is like the one matchup where I would want it, and we don't have it. Lock in here, keep this. Put back Lotus Field. This is the one match where we would want it. Ooh. They're leaning on World Tree super hard here. So we are going to actually... So we can do the trick. I think it's better to just ramp here with this rather than... They gonna Beseiju me? This is definitely Beseiju that they're holding up.
Let us begin. Stand down.
We're gonna get the brain. Now we can start braining them. Sure. That's fine. Blast zone. We're gonna start off with Ren and 7. No, Colossus first. Yeah. Colossus first and then Stone Brain. Activate the brain. Before we select that last one, let's take a look. They have 2 ignitions. They do not have Beseiju. But even still, we will... Yeah, we're just going to pass here. Because they should just play... Yeah, that's the most likely line. And then we're going to march away the token, smash the Ren.
Symbiotes heed the trees. They prepare for war.
There is great power in the feet of men.
Failure burns within us.
Now we hit Ren and 7. If they can't make giant creatures, the ignition doesn't do anything. Like the Vorinclex is a big creature. So they have Vorinclex and Yasharn are the last 2 things. So no, they're not the last 2 things because the stupid level up class thing. Yeah, that thing's fine. We should probably just take the ignitions next. I want to keep the Karn around though, so we're going to tick it up once. More.
Awaken.
Play this Bankbuster and pass the turn. Yep. Nope.
You will not threaten this world.
Druid class makes big stuff. Vorinclex is annoying. But one of their Vorinclex is down, so it's just one. It's probably still the correct pick because we have answers to everything else. Yeah, they would need to draw two cards. We would need to draw both the ignition and a threat, so. Unfortunately, the best we can hope for is a draw here. Sure, come on down. I'm gonna try and kill Karn. This is acceptable to me. No blocks.
I will endure.
Yeah, that's one thing I will say. This deck leads to very long games. Very long matches. Like, they take too long. Take too long. Come on. Cool. I don't have to do something stupid like take up a blast zone. Great debate. You already fired up the lair. You've committed to.
Anyone who harms my people must contend with me. My judgment is final. Show them how we greet our enemies.
That took way too long. Took way too long. Because the safety feature, where if you're hovering over something when the ability gets to be choosing targets, you saw how I had to mouse out of the. Sure, that's a 6/6, yeah.
I will fight with honor. I will not stop.
Let your blade do the talking.
Going as fast as I can here. Let's see. Stone Brain.
Offensive.
See you later. Guards, to me!
They're just trying to make me take actions. I wish some of that stuff would be automated. Or could be automated. Like, you do kind of sometimes want to check what's left in your deck. If you're taking notes, though, like, you can just be okay. No blocks. Why would you fire up an 8/8 for
I
that?
am proud to have fought.
Invoke Justice, Karn, me.
I have faced worse than the likes of you. My purpose is greater than myself.
Run away. You'll be safer. Remember your training.
Some solutions must be built.
Show them how we greet our enemies.
Uh, 6, 10, 11, 12. Actually, we should have popped an Emperor. Okay, so we will drop in this Emperor. Choose the new one.
I hope you're ready to lose.
Take up on this. My dude, you can sack a... you can't even sack a clue. You're just holding full control.
Strike fast and strike hard.
Trying to time me out. So our opponent is holding full control because they will die. And they're trying to get me to use as much of my clock as possible. So now they have to stall me out, and I have to win in 2 minutes. Which is probably not going to happen, right? We'll keep this. This is so frustrating. We need to just find a way to win the game very, very quickly, which means the sideboard option is going to be Hearse.
I will defend my ally. My allies are counting on me. I will not stop. Oh, say hello to my little friend.
We might get there. We might get there. I've been concentrating, so it might happen. That'll resolve.
Come, Seven. The will of the woods is made manifest. The heat has become unbearable.
Oh. We had that game. We had that game. That was annoying. But that's clock. That's clock for you. When you're playing very slow control decks, very slow complex control decks, it's unfortunate, but it happens. That was a very long one, like a very long one. So I hope you enjoyed it. I know it was only 2 games, or 2 matches, but like marathon matches. People do not like control, so hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time.